The RBI did not change the repo rate in the latest Monetary Policy Committee meeting. It held the repo rate at the same level because we know that the repo rate reflects the overall interest rates of our country. Whenever maybe, for example, if the RBI increases the repo rate, overall interest rates increases, it becomes very difficult for the businesses to take loans and investments suffer, which can create a negative impact on the GDP. So this is why in the event of this Gulf crisis and the Middle East crisis which is taking place, the RBI thought that okay, we have to target inflation without increasing interest rate right now. Let us actually understand the overall concept from very basic level. Firstly, let us understand what is Monetary Policy Committee all about. Is it a statutory body? Yes. Is it a constitutional body? No, because it is not mentioned in the constitution of our country. And why am I asking you this? Because in 2021, 2022, there are so many questions regarding the basic structure of the RBI. I mean the basic composition of the RBI. Now, when we talk about the main composition of the Monetary Policy Committee, there are 6 members, 3 from the RBI, that is the RBI Governor, Deputy Governor, and 1 member nominated by the RBI Board. The 3 other members are actually from the Government of India who are nominated by the Ministry of Finance. Mainly these are the distinguished professors and the industrial experts and so many other people who are experts in economists. So both of them, I mean the government and the RBI side, they sit and they deliberate as to how the inflation is in the economy or how are the price level in the economy. Because you know, in India, we have 4 plus minus 2 inflation targeting. That is, RBI must be maintaining inflation between 2 to 6%. And this is where, you know, we also can support our economic growth because you do not need high levels of inflation, right? And that is what this committee sits together, look into economic conditions. For example, they are now looking at the rise in cylinder prices, the rise in crude oil prices. They can expect that okay, in the near future there can be inflation, and that is why we have to play these key functions. Firstly, you know, they use some tools that is known as liquidity adjustment facility. That start with SDF, which is a facility where the banks keep excess funds with RBI by not keeping any collateral. Then we have the repo rate and the MSF. As you go from SDF to MSF, the interest rates rise, and this entire spectrum of interest rate is known as policy corridor. So, you know, under repo rate and MSF, we all know that the banks take loans from the RBI to meet their temporary liquidity or temporary cash requirements, right? And that is where if the banks will have more cash, there can be more money supply in the country, and that is what maybe sometimes lead to inflation. So what the RBI can simply do, it can raise the repo rates so that the banks will not take more loans. In this way, liquidity is actually managed by the Monetary Policy Committee. So why they do this? Because they want to keep money supply in check, to check inflation also. That is why this flexible inflation targeting framework is followed by the MPC. Because, you know, there's a simple thing. For example, whenever we change the repo rate, it changes the bank rates, it changes the home loans, business loan, EMIs, right? And that influences the consumer spending in the economy, which influences the aggregate demand, and it then influences inflation and various other GDP parameters. So this entire thing is known as transmission mechanism, and that is what the RBI is worried about right now. Because due to this West Asian conflict which is going on, the crude oil prices are at all-time high, supply chains are totally broken, right? And the dollar is appreciating like anything. Rupee is depreciating like anything, right? So due to this crude oil prices rising, we have more amount of imported inflation. We have discussed this before also, na? That if crude oil prices rises, transportation cost rises, overall things become more expensive in the economy. Supply chain disruptions are going up because crude oil prices will be raising input costs, for example, for fertilizers, and that is why maybe the output will go down. Also looking at currency appreciation of dollar will lead to simultaneous depreciation of rupee, and it will further lead to more costlier imports, costlier crude oil imports, all of this have a cumulative effect of bringing the economy down. And if in this event, for example, if the RBI would have increased the repo rate, then businesses would not have taken any loans, economy would totally collapse. And that is exactly why the RBI did not change the repo rate. If you see in the past few monetary policy committee meetings, that is in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 past monetary policy committee meeting, RBI generally lowered the repo rates. Right now, we did not change it. We kept it at 5.25% because we do not want to impact the GDP even further by lowering the investment demand and the loan demand in the country. And that is why we have to very specific about also the stances of the RBI. So for example, imagine that we start from a very low inflation scenario where maybe the economy is actually facing some depression. Go from here to a situation we have extremely high amount of inflation. So if you understand these two economic scenarios of a depression scenario and a very high inflation scenario, you can identify how the RBI's mood of either increasing or decreasing interest can change. For example, during depressions or where the aggregate demand, where the people total demand in the economy is down, RBI would do what? RBI would like to lower the interest rate now, because RBI would want people to spend more. So generally during accommodative stance, RBI actually decreases or keeps the interest rates much more lower. Go to a neutral stance where the RBI thinks that okay, the economy is actually doing good, right? We should not be disturbing the state of the economy. So here the RBI can raise or can cut the rates depending on the inflation data and the GDP data. But when inflation starts to increase, RBI can go for an interest rate rise. Definitely RBI will not cut the interest rates. Cutting was possible in these two stances. Increase or not change in interest rates can be possible in this. Definitely, most of the times during calibrated tightening, most of the times RBI will increase interest rate. Definitely not decrease, or RBI can sometimes keep the interest rate same also. But during hawkish times, RBI will definitely increase the interest rates to slow the economy down. Now, whatever we have studied right now, can we apply this to PYQs here from 2017 and 2020? Because prelims is near and such PYQs will be very important for all of us. Now let us move on to the next article.